On the podcast today, we have a very special guest, Bubba Westly, who sings from his heart and soul, writes from experience, and he has a lot of stories to share. So stick around. You don't want to miss what Bubba Westly has to say about his music.
Let's go.
Cheers, everyone. Welcome to the Texas Toast Podcast. I'm so excited to welcome our next guest. I've been wanting him on the podcast for a while, and then we had a great meeting recently. Bubba Westly. Hello, Bubba.
Hello, Helen. It is great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And it was amazing running into you and your husband at the award show.
Yeah. And by the way, he said to tell you hello.
Tell him I said hello.
Yeah. He's off in El Campo today. You know where that is. He's
Oh, of
had to go
course.
over there to, yes, get some stuff done over there. Okay. Well, speaking of that, speaking of Wharton County, and let's just talk about your background. Now, you've been singing since you were very young. Talk about how you grew up in music and the influences that you had.
So I've been playing music since I was young. I really kind of didn't capture what I would say my voice is, just because I didn't even know that I could sing. And just because I grew up in music, church, played music in church, played drums forever. Drums was actually my first instrument. And then I got to high school and had an ag teacher in Bowling, Texas, that was like, hey, you need to listen. I like what you're doing. I was learning how to play guitar a little bit. And she was like, you need to listen to these guys. And gave me a live at Billy Bob's Wade Bowen record, a live at Billy Bob's
Oh my
Cross
gosh, how
Canadian record,
awesome.
and the Roller Coaster album from Randy Rogers, and then the Level album from Eli Young. So I have 4 albums that I like to tell everybody really kind of guided me into the Texas music scene. And then I just kind of developed my own style from there. But yeah, those are the 4 albums that I kind of got to really tip my hat to her. If you know Amanda Kotzel, she was my ag teacher. She was the one that kind of threw those albums on me, and I just absolutely fell in love with them. So
I
that's
love
where I grew
that.
up.
Wow, your ag, there's nothing like ag teachers. They do so much. They're so awesome. And I love the fact that she gave you some of the live from Billy Bob's. That gets brought up a lot on this podcast because I remember when those were the big thing for us to get in radio. Like I couldn't wait till we would get our shipment of the latest live from Billy Bob's. What a great story. I absolutely love that. So when did you start writing your own original songs and then go in and start recording?
So I started writing my own original songs. I would kind of say during college when I was in school in Lubbock, in Texas Tech, and then I was going to music school at SPC, which is South Plains College, is the music school I went to. And while I was going to school there, that was kind of the experimental kind of stage. I started touring as far as playing with other musicians around the area. I toured with a guy for a few months, just to see if the musician thing was kind of my route to go after baseball. Kind of couldn't pass a physical for baseball because of one of my knees, and I just took a different approach and started writing. And my whole college years of developmental, I would say, to my music career happened in Lubbock because I was working at the Blue Light, and that
Wow.
was one of the biggest venues. That was the venue to be at in Lubbock.
Yes, it was. What a
So I
great
got
place
to
to
see,
be.
yeah, I got to see a lot of the guys coming up. I was there when William Clark Green was getting his start. So to see him sing to 20 people to thousands of people these days, it's great to see that. So he was one of my favorites, kind of, and I really enjoyed his writing style.
Hmm.
So I would kind of say the 2010, 2012 was really where I started writing. It took me about 2 years to really get everything going and started and get a record out. But I was fortunate to write with some great guys, and a guy that I wrote with for that first album of mine, Roses album, he actually was the one to write Roses. I was a guy from Giddings, Texas, Paul Perez, and he's still one of my best friends. Was in my wedding. We continue to write to this day. So he's a great dude. And I got to kind of give him credit to really showing me, because I wrote songs before, but to see how he structured stuff kind of really made me go, okay, this is the way a song really, really should be written. I would say it was even after that I kind of really started developing who I was as a songwriter.
Yes, you are very unique in your sound. It's just like it's like once you start listening to Bubba Westly, it's like you just have to continue. Like you just drop your voice. You just have so much soul, and your writing is a lot of storytelling.
Yeah, I enjoy that part because I myself have found once I developed what I like and what I really enjoy and really just who I am as a person
Mhm.
translates to my songwriting. So I
Absolutely.
love the Guy Clark type songwriters. I love the Johnny Cash, obviously, the storytellers, man. And that's just something that's it's hard to be transparent to radio these days. Just and I don't mean that there's nothing wrong with radio.
Mhm.
So before anybody jumps on that, I'm just saying for me it's being transparent to who I am as a songwriter to being able to sell that type of style and that my brand to radio and listeners of radio, you know, gives me the ability to write all kinds of like write they just I mean there's not when you listen to me there's not one specific style. That's what I like to tell
That's
people. I like
exactly,
to
oh
keep it.
my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly right. And that's what I love because,
Yeah,
you know, we
for
don't
sure.
want the same. I mean, it's like every time you switch to another track or you're listening to this EP, go over here. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And everybody that knows Bubba's music, we totally get that. That's
Right.
amazing. So you brought up branding. Let's talk about how things have evolved in the music business from when you started in Lubbock. There, then the social media comes along, and then all of this. And it looks like you do a great job. So you just kind of jumped in there and got your feet wet. Tell me about your experience with the changes that have progressed since then.
Okay, I'm still learning. I'll start with that.
Are you
It's
really?
I am because it's an ever-changing industry. The industry never stops evolving. And I
Yeah.
mean, if we looked at it from when I started in this industry, I toured, and all I was worried about is my amp going to work, and do I got a good backup amp, and do I got a good guitar? Now I have everything programmed in a pedal board that I go on and I play with. I mean, I have my acoustic programmed to a pedal board. I have my whole electric rig programmed to a pedal board, and I say it that way to say in 2010, 11, and 12, when I started music, it was still about making records and making
Hmm.
record sales. And that was slowly moving out the door. And one of my favorite teachers when I was in college, Sonny, his modern performance techniques class, one of the main things he always said was music evolves every 5 years. You got to be ahead of the change.
Yeah.
And that is so true. And I'm seeing that today in my own music and just in general of the industry is something's always evolving, something's always changing. Now we're seeing TikTok come through when 5 to 10 years ago it was all about Facebook.
Hmm.
We're seeing these, and I think that had a lot to do with COVID.
Yes.
People at home, stuck at home. What can we do? Let's make a video on our phone and let's see what happens. There's so many guys that became viral during COVID because of that. And
Hmm.
so now it's not about so much as record sales, it's about Spotify numbers. How many numbers on your Spotify? How many numbers are on your Apple Music? How many streams you got? How many people are following you? Um, I, I like I said, I'm still learning, so I'm new to that. And I say that because I'm still finding my own brand. How do I put who I am on this platforms, and basically sell what I enjoy and what I create to people? I'm a content creator, but how do I be a content creator that's true to myself and true to what people want to see? Because I don't want to be one of those people that you come to a show and I'm a totally different person than what you see on social media. I've always told people from the very beginning, I'm a transparent. What you see
Hmm.
is what you get, and I do my best to incorporate that realism and that vulnerability, not only in my music but in the content that I create for everybody out there. So I always encourage people. I was like, hey, if you want to hear me live, go to a show. I'm going to
Hmm.
record a video. You're going to see a video of me live, but that experience on what you see in social media sometimes isn't as transparent as you see when it's live.
Oh,
And
true.
so for me as branding, I'm still getting the hang of it for the platforms, like I said. But I really encourage people to come to live shows because that's where you see me, who I am as a person, what my brand truly is, and what my music truly is. And that's what it is. It's about branding because now these days it's not like, hey, that's a musician. No, no, no. You got to be more than just a musician. You got to be a content creator. You got to be active on social media. and I enjoy it. It's fun. I'm sure my wife doesn't enjoy it as much as I do, but I could only imagine that comes with the territory. But I really, really thoroughly enjoyed, and see a lot of musician friends of mine that'll reach out and be like, "Hey, how did you get that many followers, or how did you do this?" And it's as simple as saying, "Dude, you pay hundreds of dollars for a cell phone that you use every day. Make sure it has a good camera." I mean, I do follow around and I travel around with the GoPro, but
Mhm.
sometimes the best content you create is just setting your phone aside and writing, singing to yourself. Like I have a ton of videos where I haven't even posted yet that I've had over the years where I'm songwriting and I think of something and I just put my phone down and I record myself, and that's content. That's great content for down the road if this song happens to go to, the next level. It's like, how did
Right.
that song develop? Here we go. I have the backing to say this is where the song developed from. And that's content. So that's an example of how you create that content, you save that content, and you use it for the future. And, I'm not an expert at this, but that's just kind of what I've noticed. And that's how the game's evolving. It's not sitting in a room with 10 writers anymore. It's getting on a Zoom call. It's not me showing up to your studio anymore. It's us on a Zoom call, making the
Mhm.
Zoom call, making it happen. And I'm in my guest bedroom right now, and you're in your house. This is just the way it goes. And I enjoy it.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, you do really good with your social media for someone that says they're figuring it out. I love seeing your post and
Thank
just
you.
you. And I think it does, Bubba. It just goes back to you just being you.
Absolutely.
You're just such you have such a great spirit and a great personality
Thank you.
about you. It's like, it's like I just felt like you are like a brother I've had forever when we just met. I mean, it's like it's just that kind of you just have that welcoming nature. Like you just make everybody feel good in the room.
Good. I hope so, because that's exactly what I do for my own family. Like I feel like when they come, I've always been that type of person, just with very open arms to everybody. So
Yes. Yes, you
I
are.
appreciate that.
Yes. Well, you got a current radio single out entitled Falling Star, which is absolutely, oh, gorgeous. And it's
Thank you.
doing great on Texas radio.
It is. It's out 5 weeks this week, or 5 or 6 weeks this week, and it's on
It's
top
been a little
50.
bit, not much. Yeah.
That's great. That this has to be my fastest, I guess, charting single, which was great. It also debuted as my highest debut ever, and it was on the most, I guess, the most debut spins on week one. So
Mhm.
that was great to see. And I mean, I'm surrounded by a great team, Greg Austin with Austin Promotions, and my homie. I always say my homie. I joke with her about it, but Christine Harbach with Southern Borders Entertainment. She's amazing.
Yes. Yes.
She's done so much for me. I mean, I give her so much credit behind this. Matter of fact, I give her all the credit behind this, because really it's been her and me just picking up the phone and talking to people. And we've got some radio tour stuff coming up here pretty soon, but she's done the groundwork, and one of the best radio promoters I've ever worked with, ever. And I've been doing this. So it'll be 10 years this month. Be my first radio single came out 10 years ago this month. And she's by far been one of the best that I've ever worked with.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great partnership to have.
She is, and she's just a sweet person. I mean, if you ever get to know her, I don't know if you met her at the award show or not, but she's just, my God, a character. She's great. She's an amazing person to work with too. She's so sweet.
Oh, I love it. Have you ever wondered how artists like Treaty Oak Revival, Red Clay Strays, and Aaron Watson maintain the high quality and high demand for their merchandise? CH Lone Star Promo is the answer. Created in Texas to serve Texas artists, and they're currently offering 15% off on all merch orders from musicians. Visit chlonestarpromo.com to get started and tell them Texas Toast sent you.
I was reading the other day that it takes at least $1 million to break an artist. That's a ton of change, and it can feel overwhelming. But with social media leveling the playing field, you just need an effective strategy to release your music. Check out Release Rocket to ensure your single does not die after release day. You've already put time, effort, and tons of money into writing and recording your album. Let the guys at Release Rocket keep your new release alive.
Well, since that's your current single out to radio and people are obviously hearing it and it's also on your streaming, give me a little backstory on that song.
Falling Star came from this is me being vulnerable. This is a vulnerable song for me. I didn't want to release this, to be honest with you, as a single. Excuse me. And I kept listening to the track, And I was like, I need to release something that's not too slow, something that's not fast, and something that is radio friendly that can cross over. Because if you listen to the rest of that Bad Boy record, it's pretty hard. I mean, it's pretty rocking and it's pretty in your face. And this was the one that we listened to, and the way we recorded it, I wanted to make it transparent for radio. And that's just, to be honest, I needed a radio song, but the song came from a place of a very vulnerable place. Because as a songwriter, I've always been the type of person that writes from a third person point of view, or from a personal point of view. And this one is very much a personal point of view on stating to everybody that, man, you can hit rock bottom, but there's always a way out. And we're all kind of like stars, man. We're going to get high, burn bright, and come right back down. And that's exactly what the song states. And talks about having some mistakes, and it follows a character, for instance, in this. I won't say who this character is, but it's a family member of mine, a cousin, and that had lived a life, and I just kind of took what I saw from the outside and put it in the song. And she was the type of person that maybe didn't make the best choices in her life. And, I just wanted to give her some kind of hope, because I know that she's not alone. There's a lot of people that just need a song of hope, man, and telling somebody like, hey, it's okay. I understand what you're going through. I myself have hit rock bottom. I've been sober 3 years this July. And this song is just one of those songs too that made me go, this is going to be my first real big promotion with backing and doing all the whole big, radio thing. I want it to be a song that really means a lot to me. And I think this was a great choice, great choice to put to radio. And I get it, some radio stations might be, oh, these lyrics are a little too hard, and there's no any explicit content in here. There's nothing bad.
Mm-mm.
I think, to me, the most intense line in the song is truth and reality.
Yes, it is.
And
Yes, it is.
you can't understand truth and reality, well, then you're not living in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, these scars on your arm, these tattoos on your arm don't cover up all the scars in your heart, in your mind, and from your past. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa. When I wrote that line, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Because I was thinking about getting another tattoo at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a tattoo that kind of helped me get through. It made me thinking of like, this is a tattoo that means my sobriety. And I just thought about it like, if I get this tattoo, no matter how much that tattoo causes pain to me, or the way I thought about the tattoo, it's not going to cover up any of the scars that I've made, and all the mistakes that I've made in the past of who I am. And it's not going to cover up any scars, even though people sometimes use tattoos for covering up and coping with. And that's totally
Yes.
fine. I think that's a great
Mm-hmm.
mechanism. If that's your criteria of finding the way of coping with something, go for it. And
Yes.
so when I wrote that line, I was like, okay, yeah, this song is going to be very deep. Because that was one of the first lines I wrote of the song. And I said, where do I go from here? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the writers that I have my phone, I have a book with me all the time. I have something comes up, I type it down. And I mean, I can just scroll through a ton of lyrics on my phone. And this was a song that came from those dark times, different lines of me going through one of those moments and putting it down. And so this song means a lot to me, and I'm glad to see it. Glad to see it doing as well as it's doing.
Yes, it's beautiful. And speaking of
Thank you.
beautiful, I do want to talk about, I just loved seeing the video for My Everything Hannah's song at your
Oh, thank
wedding.
you.
Tell me
So,
about your wedding and your Hannah and all that.
so I always tell people that if you ever thought about somebody that could completely change your life, other than, like having a kid, like my son has completely changed my life and made me a totally better person. Well, about a year or two after I had my son, I met my wife, and I met her in one of I was going through a divorce at the time, and met her at one of the darkest places of my life. I was drinking heavily, and talk about somebody who completely changed everything in my life and made me go, it's time to wake up. It's, if this is what you want, and I wouldn't say she's an ultimatum. That's really funny to say it that way, the person. But if I wanted to live my life with her, I needed to change it, and she made it very known to me. And man, talk about a support system. Her mom travels with me on the road. She's been doing a lot of merch stuff to just being support system. And my wife herself has found sobriety. She quit drinking, a year or so after I stopped, just to she could see that struggle that I was having, and was like, you know what, I'm going to do it with you. And she's been there every step of the way, been supportive in every way. And I wanted to kind of capture every bit of the selfless person that she is, because my God, if she's the most it's so cliche to say amazing person, but that's who she is. Like, if somebody was to be like, who's the best person you've ever known, I'd be like, dude, I'm lucky because that's my wife.
Oh,
And that's
yes.
just 100% honest truth, man. She's an amazing human being. She gives so much to everybody and does so much to everybody. And I can just, man, go on and on forever about her. And
Oh,
so I tried to capture um, the person that she was and is in that song. And it was funny because when she walked down the aisle, we had hired one person just to kind of capture the ceremony type stuff. When she walked down the aisle, she goes, "We didn't hire this many cameras." And I
oh,
said, "Yeah." So it was my wedding gift to my wife, was the music video to that song, and we weren't going to release it as a music video. It was simply just a gift from me that I had some buddies of mine create for her, and it took its own, form. And we sent it to the radio promoter at the time, and he was like, "Release it." And I was like, "Okay, cool
hmm
then." So we posted it and did great. And, you're just looking at it. So it's literally a piece of me that I had wanted to create for my wife. And it turned out so great that her and I decided to share it with the world. And so if you see it out there, this is literally what I wanted for my wife, and we made. And that literally captures every bit of our love story and who she is. And I hope you enjoy the day that, we got to share together. We wanted to share it with the world. So we did.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's talk about one more song because I have to bring it back home to our area. Your Small
Absolutely.
Town Loser in the Wharton County Jail.
That is a true story about my life. Obviously, every song we've talked about so far is a true story. I like writing those. Small Town Loser, my God, I took so much hell. I've gotten some, and I continue to get it. And I get so much of it from my family that I want to recut it and re-release it as a radio single at some point. It's a great song because it's a true song. And I've gotten anybody that listens to that goes, man, I have family the same way. I've dealt with that. My family, I on
That's
my
true.
dad's side of things, I come from a generational curse of addiction, and it was just, passed down. I mean, to be honest with you, it's like one of those. I wouldn't even say it's a gene. You know what I'm saying? I really hate to say that it's a gene, but it definitely is one of those things that just kind of got passed down. And that whole song is a 100% true story about growing up in the household that I did at a young age. My grandparents took me in, when I was 11. And so from when I was 11, they raised me, but, and I give every bit of musical talent and musical, attributes that I have to my grandfather that raised me. He was my dad, and he
hmm
passed a few years ago, but, everything that I do and I've ever done musically, I got to give to him the credit to him for, because he was the one that anything in sports, it was him. Anything in music,
hmm
it was him. And I think that's why those are the two things that I've only done my whole entire life, was just music and sports. Uh,
Yes.
but yeah,
Yes.
so that song though was definitely uh, one that I sat on for a long time. And if you listen to that record, Daddy Put the Bible Down was another one
Yes. Yes. That was
I
another one.
that whole album, that album too, was some of my favorite songwriting, because it was songs that I've written years and years ago that I brought up that were brought up again. And I revisited and I rewrote some of the verses, and I was like, okay, these need to be put out. It's time to put these out. And those are some of the first songs I've ever written in my life. And Small Town Loser, I think I wrote when I was like 23 or 24, and I didn't release it till I was 30. So I sat on that song for 6, 7 years, figuring out, is this good enough to put out? Is the truth too real in this song? And I was just at the point where, you know what, this is who I am as an artist. Let's put it out. And so I put it out, and that, yeah, the red and blue lights flashing in the dark is a very true story. Growing up in a trailer park, and it's funny because a lot of people are like, is it really like that? And it is, but I'm not the only family. I'm not the only guy that
That's
grew up like that.
exactly
I'm not
right.
the only human that grew up in that type of, I would say, environment. There's a lot of people that did. I'm just one that likes to talk about it. So what?
Mm-hmm. I
So
know.
what? That's just the way I kind of view it. And if you don't want to talk about it, well, then you continue to cope with your depression and anxiety that you're holding in, and I'll let mine out in the form that I know how to find my release, and that is in songwriting and performing. And I perform that song every night. It does not matter where we're at.
Love
Every
it.
night that song gets performed, and everybody that comes up to me talks about that song. And that was one of the most, probably, I wouldn't say requested, but definitely one of the biggest fan favorites of when we play everywhere's. Like I played in out by the Louisiana border this weekend, and a guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, dude, that song you're saying, Small Town Loser," he was like, "I was that loser. I dealt." He was like, "I had the meth addiction, and I went through that." And he goes, "My family dealt with all the meth addictions." And that's
Mhm.
crazy to even use that word so openly and to say that your addiction is so open and you dealt with such a hard addiction. But I mean, addiction comes in many forms. And just to hear somebody relate in that deep of, you know, um, emotional state, to hear from them, like the dude was in tears explaining, like,
Wow.
dude, that song was I was that loser that you're talking about. That was me. I had a guy from France that came up to me and was like, man, I was a preacher and I gave all that up.
Wow.
And I wonder what my two daughters think about me. And then when I hear your music and you talk about Small Town Loser, or you talk about Daddy Put the Bible Down, and he goes, that's exactly the angle that my daughters take towards me. And he goes, and I've doing the best that I can now to rekindle that. And I'm not saying that I'm the one that helped them try to rekindle that relationship. I'm just saying I was an eye opener to somebody. And if my music can do that to some people to make them a better person, so be it. And I'm just not the type of person to point fingers either. But
Hmm.
I will tell the truth. And if you feel like I'm pointing fingers at you by telling the truth, it sounds like there's a different issue going on there. Sounds like somebody has a guilty conscience. But
Right.
that's that's why I write. That's why I do what I do. That's why I enjoy what I do, is because it touches somebody. And I'm noticing
Yes.
that in the last few years that I found sobriety, that I care more about my music. I'm finding that others care a lot more too. And that means that's why I do it. That I'm finding out. It took me 7 years, really, if you want to look at it on a scale, 7 years to go, this is what I'm really doing, and I'm doing the right thing. And I'm doing it for the right people that want to listen and that care to listen. So that goes back to branding an audience. I found the brand that I am
Hmm.
because I'm myself. And I'm not, you know, masking who I really am with bottles of alcohol, and here I am. And I'm seeing people really, really relate to that and wanting to reach out more and wanting to find more of who I am. And that's great.
Hmm.
And that here I am. Here we are, Helen.
Yes, I
We're
love
talking
that's
about it.
right.
And I'm
Here
talking
we
about it for the
are.
right reasons.
And it's like, and I want to go back to something, and I don't think I've ever brought this up on the podcast, but there's something about grandparents, and I had some special grandparents, and I had some parents that had some issues, and I too was raised by my grandparents, and
Wow.
they were like they were my everything. My grandma,
We didn't
my
discuss this at the award show. That's
I know.
crazy.
No, my nan was everything to me. Yeah. Well, let's get back to okay, so you've got some shows coming up. You've got a pretty loaded schedule, and one show in particular that's coming up pretty soon is the Kenny Store with Ken Fo.
Yes, I get to sleep in my own bed that night
You
because it's
do.
right down the road.
Yes,
It's
you
like 10
do.
minutes down
Yes.
the road. So I'm excited to be back. The last time I was there, I played with William Clark Green. It was sold out. So I'm hoping we can do the same. I got Tony and Rita. Man, my God, if you've ever met them
They're
from Kenny
awesome.
Ford, just amazing. And their son Jacob, just what a talented dude. My God, it's great. They're great people to be around. My wife and I, when we get a chance, we'd love to go down there and have dinner. And the environment is so, for lack of a better word, inviting. It's a place that you can go to and you're just like, I feel like I'm home. Like I'm having a home cooked meal. It's what it tastes like. The food's amazing there. Just I can rave on about Kenny Store. I'm
Yes.
excited to be back, but I'm more excited to even be playing with Kinfolk. Man, what a great group
That's
of
going to be a
dudes.
great show. Y'all too. I mean, I don't think Kenny's store will be the same after that. I mean, that's just going to be amazing because I think a lot of people really will get that experience with you and Kinfo with such great music. And it seems like to me, that's an engaging audience when you go to Kenny's store.
Oh, absolutely. Every time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Every time. Everybody that goes there to Kenny's Tour goes there to listen to live music. And that's just the one thing that I've always really enjoyed about Kenny's Tours because you can see the people that are there are listening. The audience that they bring is engaging. They're listening. They're dancing. They want to know. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to one of their songwriter nights that they do. They do like a
Would
dinner
love
and a
to go.
songwriter.
Hmm.
Like, man, I think it was Sean McConnell there, and it was quiet. I mean, you were just in a room that was a packed, sold out room of people, and it was
I
just
see. Yeah.
dead silent, enjoying what he had to say about why he wrote those songs and just listening to him perform. What a performer Sean McConnell was too. But I mean, that's just a great listening room. I think we're going to be outside though
Mhm.
on the
Oh,
patio,
yes. Uh-huh.
but
Cool. That's going to be
holds
so
up.
good. So,
Gotcha.
one thing I don't know how I didn't know about this softball game that was at Constellation Field. Did you
Yeah,
go
that
there
was
for
yesterday.
that?
I actually did. I'm wearing
Oh,
their merchandise today. TVAA, Texas Veterans Athletic Association.
oh my gosh.
I'm
And we
actually wearing.
just
Look, I'm
had,
wearing a
yeah,
hometown for you too
I
hat. Look
see
at that.
TNT Western wear. Famous
Shout out
Western
to
wear. I
Price and
shop at
those
TNT.
guys. Oh, I
Yes.
every time I go down there, we stop in because they're one of the only places that carries Hey Dudes in a 15 and
Hmm.
boots in a
There
15
you
D. So
go.
I'm always popping in when I'm down there. But
I know. Yeah, and I'll be getting to see you soon down here.
I will. Yes, the last Saturday of this month will be at Fat
Hmm.
Grass in Bay City.
Yeah, fat grass. I'm going to be there. Anyway, go
But
ahead. I'm sorry.
the Texas Veterans Athletic Association (TVAA), Alan Porter and his wife, they run an organization that kind of helps veterans that deal with PTSD. And the foundation yesterday was just a celebrity versus veterans softball game. And what they do is they bring in celebrities. And I was fortunate to play the first one with Roger Clemens, Brian Cushing, Paul Wall. It was a great one. I don't know how I ended up on that roster, but it was great and it was awesome.
It's so
And
cool.
they basically have veterans that suffer from PTSD, and they give them an organization, a softball organization to play games with. And if that's the way that a veteran can cope, with what they're going through, man, that's what an organization to support. And I'm 100% behind them. I've ran into other organizations because I was working with Alan and this organization. And, I've met an organization Sunday, yesterday, or 2 days ago. Yeah. Whatever day
Or
it is.
no, I
Sorry.
keep thinking today's Monday. That's the first thing I told Kyle when we came on. I'm so confused. I think it's Monday, but it's not. Okay.
What the organization does is it's called Camp Hope, and they have a camp where if you're suffering, or a guy that shared a story with me yesterday, he was homeless and went to Camp Hope and found sobriety and suffered from PTSD, and now he's been 5 years sober. And it's just listening
Great
to these
stuff.
veteran stories, man, and all they want to do is just to reach out and say they enjoy your music, and to say
Hmm.
thanks to these guys face to face means the world to me. every
Right.
every year that I've played, man, I get a softball and I get every veteran to sign it, and I keep it above of my piano in our living room.
I love it. I love
And
it because
that's just
yeah.
the smallest thing I can do to these guys who give me freedom and
Right.
give me hope for another day, and I hope that my music can give them hope for another day. So to
Yes.
be
Yes.
involved with an organization like that and be surrounded with positivity from people that that
Mm-hmm.
do things like that.
All right. Well, we're running out of time, but we got to do this again. And thank you so much,
Anytime.
Bubba Westly, for coming on the podcast. And I'll be seeing you.
All right. I'll see you too. I'll be down there to go fishing with you soon too.